Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and I am Kat, and my channel is called Living Solo, Living Well. So today's topic, I've been struggling with something probably over the last month or so, and a friend of mine, I have a friend in another state, and we were talking on the phone a while back. She has had some health problems and didn't know what it was, thought it was some neuro issues caused by a surgery that she had, I think, on her neck. And, I'm going through the issues I'm going through from my work injury. So we were talking about everything. And then one day she posted on Facebook that she had just been diagnosed with ALS, which is also called Lou Gehrig's disease. So her mind is still there, but this is an aggressive form. And so she's lost complete use of her arms, hands, legs. She requires 24-hour care now around the clock. And she's got a very good mindset, and her outlook as far as her acceptance of everything is good. And she's a Christian, and she is making it through everything, and she's got a very positive outlook. But the issue I've been dealing with lately is struggling with feeling like my issues aren't bad at all, because look at her situation. And one of the things I wanted, several things that I want to address related to this topic, because I have struggled thinking I have no right to complain. Yes, I have vision issues. I have to have vision therapy. I struggle with vision problems. Right now, my eyes are burning terribly. I just want to shut them. And plus, I have the prisms on, so they tend to pull my eyes where I can focus. And then when I take them off, they go back. So it's hard to see sometimes. It's hard to see in the dark, or when the light's going down somewhat. It's sometimes I can't even open my eyes, literally. I can't look at bright lights. And so there's that, and some of the other issues I have, and I deal with pain every day in my spine. But I feel like, because I feel like my symptoms are right here and then hers are right here. So why should I complain if I have this, if I have these few things relative to her situation? Hers is life-threatening and it's going to be terminal. Mine's not, thankfully. And so I guess I wanted to talk about what to do when you're in that kind of a situation, because you tend to think that, I do anyway, my problems aren't nearly as bad as hers, because look, she's got, she's terminal. But pain doesn't need to compete. And I didn't make that up. I read that somewhere. But pain does not need to compete. I remember years ago, a very good friend of mine was married to a guy that was just verbally abusive. And I mean, it was terrible. She did not divorce him because he would threaten her. He finally passed away, and, they stayed married. But I made a comment once, because I was married to an alcoholic. And when I found that out, it just changed my entire world, because it was a secret and I found out about it. So she had made a comment, this friend way back then had made a comment that, well, at least he doesn't wake you up in the middle of the night and berate you and belittle you. And it was almost like we were competing. And since my husband at the time didn't do that, like hers was doing, my problems were not as bad as hers. And I always thought to myself, it's all relative. It's how we deal with the problems that, we're going through, the cards that we're dealt. How do we deal with that? How do we handle those? And just because when I was married at the time, he didn't wake me up and berate me and yell at me and all these things her husband did, that did not mean that the issues I had with an alcoholic husband were trivial. Relative to our situations, mine was devastating, because I had no idea, and I was not an enabler. he was just a very good secret keeper. So I struggled with it then, and now that I have this other friend that's terminal, it just has made me rethink things. And then I started feeling guilty because who am I to complain when she has a terminal illness? And that's how my mind, I guess, talks to me. That's what I hear in my head, and I need to get to the point where I'm not comparing, oh, look, hers is so bad, I shouldn't say anything because mine's not. And that's just, it doesn't need to be that way. And that really isn't a healthy way to deal with things, to address the situation. So the instinct to not complain about, I just saw a cat outside walking in my driveway. Anyway, but the instinct to not complain about your own problems in a situation like this may seem like it makes sense, but it's not fair. There's a little bit of an unfairness because that to me discounts me as a person, as a human, and the issues I'm going through. And I don't need to put that burden on me to make myself feel guilty for having the smaller issues, I guess you could say, on a not as grand of a scale as hers. And anyway, I just wanted to address this because I struggle with it. So I'm 99.9% certain I'm not the only one that struggles with it. So a couple of, I jotted down, I'm looking at some notes, I just have some bullet points, and I have 6 bullet points that relate to this feeling that I have, and I know others, I'm sure others do too. I'm not that special. And so one of the bullet points is letting both realities exist at the same time. The reality that she has a terminal illness and she's, going through everything that she's going through, that's a reality. And then my own reality is I'm living with issues that are very limiting, and they are here every day, all day long. So I have things that affect me in the same way that she has things that affect her. But that doesn't mean my issues are less important or less damaging, I guess is another word you could say, than hers are. I'm not terminal in that regard. So, I guess my issues aren't as damaging, if you want to use that word, as hers because it's terminal, but it still affects my everyday life. And, I need to learn to say, okay, I have issues and they affect me in this way. She has issues that affect her in that way. You've got issues that you're going through that may seem trivial to someone else, but in your life, they're big issues. There are things that we can't control, and having an illness or having injuries or having things going on that we can't control, just because they're not as bad as someone else, does not mean that it's not having an effect on you as a person. So just because I don't have ALS doesn't mean that my issues are not affecting my life, and they affect my life negatively a lot of the time. Job situations, I can't work certain jobs. I'm limited on, I have restrictions, and my neurologist has put me on no more than 4 hours of work a day because of the issues that I have with my spine and my vision and a bunch of stuff. So anyway, the first thing I wanted to talk about was letting both realities exist at the same time. So number 2, the second bullet point, is being thoughtful about where you process your own struggles. So if you're, I'm used to talking to that friend on the phone. She's long distance in another state. And, now that I know that she has all these issues, she's not able to talk very well now. Last time we spoke, she was, but she had done a video and put it out on Facebook, and it's very difficult for her to get her words out. She can't text, she can't type. She has somebody that has to do it, a caregiver or family member. So being thoughtful about where you process your own struggles, to me, that means I take that as not trying to process the issues I'm having during my conversations with her, because I don't want her issues to be overshadowed by my complaints, because I don't want to put her in the position to have to muster up, something to help me get through what I'm going through, because she's in a really tough spot. It's a really bad situation. So, but we can be thoughtful about addressing our issues with those that are, on a different path than we are, maybe terminal or maybe just a worse kind of situation. So, because I know if we reverse that, if I'm having a really bad day and I've got things going on and I'm trying to deal with life, and let's say someone with some really bad issues, really hard struggles, contacted me, a friend, and wanted to talk about those issues. In my mindset, with that mindset of where I'm struggling, I'm having a hard day, I'm not going to be able to give to my friend what she needs dealing with her own issues. So if we reverse that back to, like I mentioned initially, me talking about all my issues, or I'm struggling, so I want to talk to somebody about it, I don't need to add that weight to her shoulders, because she's not in a place where she can, I guess, offer, she can't communicate very well. So she's not in a place where she can offer the help to me. So, I have other friends that I can discuss things with, and I have, but I just need to, I need to know to tone it down and not share or expect her to help me through all the serious stuff, because she simply is in a place where she can't do that. So that is bullet point number 2. And I feel like I'm having trouble speaking today. So bear with me. I've been super tired for the last few days. I feel a nap is in order today, but I don't know if I'll get one. So the third bullet point is don't erase yourself from the relationship, because just because your issues aren't as severe or serious or terminal as hers or as someone else's doesn't mean that we are not validated. So don't erase yourself from the relationship because you might feel that your situation isn't as bad. And so it's like, who am I to complain? And I'm just not gonna discuss my issues. Be the friend that you've been to this other person or these other people that are going through struggles and different seasons in their life. You can still be a part of that relationship. So just don't remove yourself, don't erase yourself or your issues from that relationship. So the fourth bullet point is, when you're addressing or speaking to someone that has a bunch of medical issues or things that are going on, sometimes it's just good to just come right out and ask, is it okay? Do you feel like talking today? Is it okay to share some struggles I'm going through with you? And sometimes ask for permission. Don't assume they don't want to hear what you have to say, or don't assume that they do want to hear it. So, I know they say when people are going through things, if somebody's had a death in the family, let's say their child passed away, a grown child or a child, and you don't want to talk to them about their child because you feel like, oh, they were hurting really bad. But things I've heard, people in that situation do want to talk about their deceased loved one. So if you give them the opportunity to express how they feel or whether or not they want to talk about it, that is something that I need to work on more, instead of assuming they don't want to hear anything I have to say because look at them, the situation they're in. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but it does to me. Ask, don't assume, and just see where they're at in their journey, and if they're willing or able, or if they have it in them to be able to listen and support you. So number 5, the bullet point, is redefine what support looks like. So that kind of piggybacks on these other things. You know, your best friend with an issue or a good friend with an issue, the dynamics of the relationship have changed. It's almost like a caregiver patient kind of situation. In my mind, you've got to be careful. You've got to make sure, you know, that you're honoring the things that they're able to do, or things that they're not able to do. So you may not be able to use them as your main support system like you used to, because they're not capable of of keeping that position that they've had, you know, in the past. You had a mutual understanding where you spoke to each other, you supported each other, you were there for each other, you could communicate and discuss and kind of bounce things off of each other. But that may not be where you're at right now. It may not be that you can do that with that person. So, you know, there are times I want to pick up the phone and call her and talk to her, but she can't really talk. You know, she struggles. So, and she can't hold a phone. So, it's really hard to have that support from her. I want to offer support for her, but it's hard for for her to reciprocate, which I understand. But that doesn't mean, you know, that your support, you know, she has no support for me anymore. That doesn't mean that. Her support is different, and I may have to look elsewhere for somebody to really help me through things, because she's unable to at this time. But I still need to accept whatever support she's able to give. So we have to redefine what that support looks like. It's probably totally different than what it was in the past with my friend. So, and then number 6 is give yourself a place to be honest. So how I take that is understanding where they're at in their journey, like I've said, and accepting that that's where they're at. And that's where that does affect your relationship, because you don't have the same dynamics, the same relationship that you had before. So, you know, that's really hard for me, because it is the cycle of life. You know, we all eventually get to a point where we're wearing out. And, you know, it makes me sad, because the older I get, I still want my friends around, but I'm realizing that, you know, honestly, if I face the truth, we are all getting to that point where we're losing our support system to death. You know, friends and family are dying off. And so it makes it harder as we get older to have good support and to have someone to bounce things off of. So you have to give yourself this place of honesty and acceptance of where you're at and what's going on, and realize that you may have to have different ways of supporting each other. So I've touched on that earlier. So anyway, these are just thoughts I've had, and I struggle because this is a very good friend of mine, and she didn't know she had these issues. She thought it was related to something else, and they did testing which determined that she had ALS. And again, it's a very aggressive form. So when I found that out, my heart sank. You know, she's just wheelchair bound now and bed bound. So that makes it hard. And, I love my friend to pieces, and it's one of those changes in life that you really don't want to have to deal with, but you have to learn to live with it, learn to navigate it, and just understand that it changes the relationship. So, but having said all that, life is about change. It is dynamic. It's not, we can't stay in the same place our entire lives mentally without changing. Life is all about change. And so these are some of the real changes that come with living. You deal with the good, you deal with the bad. And anyway, I just wanted to talk about that and touch on it. And, I know I'm not the only one going through these kinds of thoughts with friends that, have an issue, have a health issue. So anyway, I hope everybody is getting along well and not dealing with struggles, major things. If you are, just make sure you have your support system in place, and just know that again, pain doesn't need to compete with someone else's pain. So we don't have to compare ourselves. It doesn't mean our issues are any less important because we're at a different level of pain or struggle than other people. So anyway, on that note, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next video.